Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Christy Underwood. I'm the Executive Officer of the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology. Thank you all for joining us on this Monday morning. We have a presentation for you all. And then at the end of this presentation, we will open it up to questions. So please hold your questions until then. And then we will work on getting as many questions answered as we can. We have a lot of people on the call today. I really want to thank you all for joining us. Apologies for the rescheduling of this. We did have some technical difficulties at our last one, but we're happy that we are here with you today. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in and get started on our presentation on the most common violations in California. All right, so first we're going to talk about our mission of the state board. Our mission is to ensure the health and safety of California consumers by promoting ethical standards and by enforcing the laws of the beauty and barbering industry. Our duties is we administer the examinations of the applicants for licensure. We issue licenses to qualified applicants. We discipline persons who have been determined to be in violation of the board's rules and regulations. And we adopt rules governing the sanitary conditions to protect the public health and safety. Inspections and citations, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So first off, what to expect during an inspection. Many of you have probably had an inspection, and here's what we want to provide you with what to expect. So they can occur any day of the week at any time of the day. Yes, we do work on weekends, and yes, we do work in the evenings. The inspector should walk in and identify themselves as soon as they enter the establishment. The inspector will note violations on an inspection report, and the inspector will answer any questions that the licensee may have. What we're displaying on the screen for you right now is a sample of the inspection report that you will receive. You will receive a yellow copy of this report, and the original copy is sent in from the inspector to our office. Should you be issued a citation, this is what the citation would look like. Now, it's important to note that inspectors do not issue citations. Inspectors just review what they see at the time of the inspection, and then they report on that inspection report that we showed you earlier. They take photographs of any violations that they see, and then they provide that information to Sacramento, where it's reviewed. It's determined if this is a first offense, a second offense, if it's determined that is it a legitimate violation, and should there be a fine assessed. So that decision is all made here in the office in Sacramento, and that if we determine that a citation is warranted, this is what you're going to get. It's going to be a paper that is mailed to you, that is going to have your information on it, and it lists each of the violations and the fine that you've been given. So our citations are a way for the board to discipline individuals who violate the law. This is one of our main purposes. Is we are the state regulators who make sure that people are following the laws and regulations of the board, and this is how we enforce those laws. We are primarily a citation-based board, as opposed to a lot of other boards take more formal discipline. We believe that the citation and fine process is a better method to get people to correct their violations, leave you with your license, and continue on with your business. So once a citation is determined that is going to be issued, they're issued through the mail, as I mentioned, and it's about 45 days after you've received the inspection, you'll receive the citation in the mail. Okay, so let's get into the most commonly cited violations in California. First up is our Business and Professions Codes. That's what you're seeing as BPC. That's our laws and regulations. And that is 7317 and 7349, an unlicensed establishment or an unlicensed person. So this is if the inspector comes in and the establishment does not have their establishment license, or they might have an establishment license that was valid to the previous owner. So if you bought an establishment from someone and they still had a valid establishment license, it's no longer valid. It has to be under your name because establishment licenses are not transferable. So if you take over the ownership of an establishment, you must apply for a new establishment license. And just a note that establishment is $50. The establishment license fee is $50. Getting cited for this violation is about $250 to $500. So you want to make sure the establishment license that's hanging in your reception area is valid with your current owner's name on that. And then 7349 is an unlicensed person, and that's employing an unlicensed person. So if there is anyone working in a salon or shop that is not fully licensed by the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology, this is a $1,000 fine, and it will go to the establishment owner. So whoever holds that license of the establishment license cannot have people working in there that are not licensed. And it doesn't matter if they're a booth renter, it doesn't matter if they have a license from another state, they have to hold a California license to be able to provide those services. All right, our next violation is a super important one. It's the one violation that we see the most consumer harm in California, and that is Whirlpool foot spa and air jet basins found with debris and mildew. So hopefully you're seeing this on your computer screen. We're giving you an example of some of the things that we see when we are out there. I can tell you that this violation is getting better. However, this is the harm that can be caused to a consumer if you're not properly cleaning those Whirlpool jets. All that gunk that you see on that jet is going to be touching someone's feet and lower legs. As we all know, people that get pedicures often will shave their legs prior to going in. So now they have open areas where that gunk that's on that jet has something growing in it, and it could go right into a person's skin. So you don't want this to happen to you. You don't want it to happen to your salon. So we are still seeing this as one of our top violations. Make sure that we clean those Whirlpool jets. All right, the next violation, which is so common and can so easily be corrected, and that is not having a log for your pedicure equipment. So rather you're using liners, rather you're using a single tub, a stainless steel bowl, you have to have a log that shows you're cleaning those basins where people's feet are going in. This is an example of a log. We have these on our website, and they have to be maintained with the proper information that's required by regulation. So we still are seeing violations that people are not completing this log after every time that the basin is cleaned. All right, next is our disinfectant is not changed and or covered. So this jar that we're showing you here is both cloudy and has the lid off to the side. We understand that salons get very busy, but once that disinfectant is cloudy and not changed, it's no longer effective to do what it's needed to do. So you have to make sure that disinfectant is clean. And it always has to be covered. So make sure that that lid is completely secure on the top of your jar or whatever other container. You do not have to use this type of jar. This is just our example, but you have to have that container closed. We see large Tupperware containers with a lid on it. That's totally acceptable as long as it is closed and there's nothing floating around in that disinfectant product. All right, so this still on that same type of jar. There's not enough disinfectant solution for total immersion. So when you put tools in a jar like this, that liquid should be all the way to the top. Everything that you put in there needs to be completely covered. So if it is in a large square Tupperware container, like I mentioned before, you have to have enough disinfectant solution to make sure that everything is covered. We see all different types of jars and containers that people can use, and it's totally fine, but it has to be completely covered. Anything, don't have those straight razors hanging over the edge. If you have a comb that the end is sticking up, like this you're seeing as a brush that the end is sticking up, that's going to be a violation. So that liquid has to be all the way covering whatever tool you have in there. All right, our next one is incorrect storage of soiled non-electrical instruments. So this is something that is so common that can be easily fixed. Your tools must always be labeled. And so this is a soiled non-electrical item. You can see we're showing you that this container has no label on it and it has dirty tools inside of it. So what you want to make sure you do is you have a clear label that says dirty on top, on the side, wherever you want to put it, but it has to be visible and it has to be labeled. As with the previous one, this is for your disinfected items. So this is a container that's labeled clean/disinfected. So when the inspector looks at this, they're expecting to open the lid off of that and see a clean tools because you only put clean tools in here. But we opened this and we found that there's a hair in there, or often there could be dust in there. You have to make sure that container where you're storing your items that you've just disinfected is a clean, or otherwise your items are no longer clean. So you want to make sure that that container, whatever it may be, is clean and is covered and is labeled. So this is one that we still continue to see this violation throughout California, and it really is one of our more dangerous violations for consumers. This is disposal of non-disinfectable instruments. So we're showing you a buffer and an emery board. These cannot be disinfected. You cannot put these tools in a disinfectant solution. They would fall apart, and the type of material that they are cannot be cleaned. If you use this on someone who potentially has a nail fungus and you then use it on another person, you are transferring that fungus to another person. They have to be clean, brand new for every single person that you see. And as soon as you use them, they need to go right in the trash. So if we're finding them in a drawer, if we're finding them when you don't have a client, then you didn't throw them away. So those tools have to go immediately into the trash as soon as you finished it with your client. All right, this is liquids, creams, and powders and cosmetics that are not clean. You can see that this wax pot has the little lid, the collar around it to try to keep the wax from dipping, but it's gotten very dirty. So we need to make sure that we're keeping those items clean. Powders can be kept in clean shakers. And then when you're only using a portion of the preparation, the cosmetic preparation, you need to remove that preparation from the container in a way not to contaminate the remaining portion. So you would need to remove that wax with one stick. Do not double dip in a wax. No wax pots heat to a level of killing what we need it to kill, and so you can have things growing in there. So you never want to double dip in your wax pot. Okay, so here we're showing you some tools that cannot be found in your establishment. Any of these tools found in your establishment, you will be cited. So if you look at the picture, on the right of the picture, we have Credo blades. That's a razor edge tool that is intended to be used to remove calluses. We should not ever be removing calluses. You can smooth the callus, but you cannot remove the callus. Right in the middle is a rasp. Those cannot be used in California. They have open holes that are basically like a cheese grater. Most people know them as a cheese grater, and that is grating the callus off of people's feet, which cannot be done by our licensees. And then we have various pictures of different types of needles. We cannot use needles in California. You cannot use lancets for extractions. You cannot use pointed needle tip tweezers, and you absolutely should not have any type of hypodermic needle or syringe that has a needle in your establishment. So those are our most common violations that we see, and we do see thousands of them on a regular basis. So all things that we believe you can easily fix and remove from your establishments and avoid getting fined. But what happens if you do get fined? If you do get a citation, our board does offer citation appeals. So if you are cited, there are a couple things you can do. You can pay the citation amount and clear the hold that's placed on your license. So if you do get a citation with a fine, it will go against your license. If you have an individual license, so say you're a cosmetologist and you're also an establishment owner, that citation is going to go against both of those licenses. Excuse me 1 minute. If you're an individual, it's going to go against just your individual license, and it will stay on there and not allow you to renew that license unless that citation is paid. Or you can appeal the citation if you do not agree with that citation. If you choose to appeal the citation, this is an attachment that comes with your citation that you receive. And this is what you would need to fill out if you wish to appeal. You can see at the bottom, it says, I wish to appeal, and you would list the violations that you would want to appeal. So let's just say you received a citation that had multiple violations, but really you just wanted to appeal that one citation, one violation that you don't agree with. Well, you would write in that one violation. And then you would end up going to the disciplinary review committee hearing. The DRC is an informal hearing before a panel of at least 3 of our board members, and it's your opportunity to provide evidence and testimony of why you do not agree with the citation. Once you have that hearing, you will receive a decision in the mail within 30 days. That decision is what is made in closed session by our committee members. And the decision letter will state whether the citation is upheld, modified, or dismissed. We have our contact information listed above. As always, you can email our board. I can tell you that we receive an I'm not even sure what the average is, but I can tell you right now we have over 1,000 emails pending. So it does take us about a week to a week and a half to respond to your emails, but you will absolutely get a response. It just might take some time. So that is kind of a review of what we see in the state board as our most common violations. At this time, we want to open it up to questions. We have several staff on this call with you today. So we are here for you for however long it takes so that we can answer any burning questions that you may have. And I'm going to turn it over to the moderator to go ahead And I'm thinking we might have lost audio. Just 1 second.
I still hear you, Christy.
Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions.
All right. So we have some hand raises going on and a Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen if you're using a full desktop. If you're using a mobile device, hand raises are probably going to be best, but you can type questions into the question and answer box. It will just be a different tab. And we're going to start with Keisha Megan. Hold on just a moment. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone. All right, Keisha, I see that you've unmuted. I haven't yet heard you. We're going to go we're going to go ahead and give Tandra a try, and we're going to circle back to you, Keisha. Hold on just a moment, please. Tandra?
Hello.
Hello, go ahead, please.
Hi. So I actually have, it's kind of the same question, twofold, I guess. During the pandemic, we weren't allowed to have magazines or anything in the salon. Is that still a no-no for us? And also,
oh, go ahead.
and also the plexiglass barriers between like the manicurist and customer.
That is not anything that we would require. I would just double check with your county health department. I'm not aware of any county that is still requiring that, though.
Okay. And then the magazines, is that something we can have?
Yeah, we would have no problem with the magazines.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then what? Estheticians. Oh. And then what are the rules on microneedling and estheticians?
Thank you for asking that. Estheticians cannot do microneedling. It is considered the practice of medicine and cannot be done by estheticians.
What about people covered by the health department? And even now we have, well, we know of somebody that is doing it. She's not an esthetician, but she's covered by the health department. So is that just different because she took a class and it's covered through the health department?
No, because the medical board deems that as the practice of medicine. So I would check with the medical board on that to be sure they would consider that unlicensed practice of medicine.
Okay, that is exactly what I needed to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Next, we're going to have Rosendo Pardo. Hold on just a moment. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Basically, my question is, to open a salon, where are the requirements?
To open a salon?
Yes, because I was, to open a salon, what do you need to open the salon? I have a license. I don't have the space yet, but basically, where would the information be to kind of, make sure that everything's fine, and then I would have to set up an inspection right before you open.
So you don't need to get inspected first. You do need to get your license. So you can go onto our website, and I'll ask Alex, are you on?
I am on.
Can you answer that?
I can. So if you're trying to
Alex.
open an establishment, you can visit our website and go to our tab for forms and applications, and then you can click our establishment form. The establishment application's right there. So you can either apply by mailing that application in, or you can apply online through Breeze. And then there's lots of requirements listed on the application. And then of course, you should always like refer to our laws and regulations. You can see all the specific requirements for your establishment in those laws.
Okay, that sounds
Does
good.
that answer it?
Yeah, you said a word that I didn't recognize right now. I couldn't think of what it was. I can't remember what you said though. Check the
Oh, the website for our laws and regulations?
Yeah, once you check the website, you said something that I didn't quite familiar. I didn't get grasp what you were saying though. I'll check it out though.
Okay.
You could the time frame is really like you need the space before you open, right? You can't start doing everything before you have a space.
Correct. You need to have your license basically in hand because it needs to be displayed in pretty
With the
much your reception
location and
area,
the address.
conspicuous. Right. So the public needs to be able to see your license displayed before you can start performing those services.
Okay, and I have a license that's probably 25 years old or longer. I could do barbering, correct or no?
As long as it's a current license, have you been renewing it?
I renewed it. I have to renew it on 2024. It expires.
Oh, great. So yeah, as long as it's current, you can use your barber license, but you would need to provide those services in a licensed establishment.
Can you repeat that again? Sorry.
So you can use your barber's license as long as it's current, but you would have to perform the services in a licensed establishment. So if you were planning to provide services in your establishment that you don't have a license for yet, you couldn't do that, but you could be working in another establishment.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
No
your
problem.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Brian Wallace. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, so my first question, I actually dropped them in the question box, but I'll just read them. Well, they kind of like correspond with each other. So I wanted to know, how does one become a state board inspector, and what are the qualifications needed to become one?
Shelby, could you answer that?
I would love to answer that. So the first thing that you need to do, as you mentioned, is determine if you do meet the minimum qualifications for the inspector job classification. So the job classification that you would be looking at if you are not already an inspector with the state or don't have quite a number of years as an inspector for a government agency is Inspector 1. And what you'll do is go to the official state of California jobs website, which is Cal Careers. It's calcareers.ca.gov. And you would go from there to where it says exam assessment search. Because when you're working on getting a job with the state, you do have to take an exam to prove that you meet the minimum qualifications and get on what's called an eligibility list that agencies can then hire from. So you'll look up that exam for the Inspector 1 classification. And when you get to that exam bulletin, what you're going to find is the minimum qualifications for the classification that you need to have. So minimum qualifications refer to your training, education, and work experience. And then if you believe that you do meet the minimum qualifications, you're going to complete the exam. And the exam for the inspector classification is a little different. It's not just like a test that you take online or in person. It's actually an application package that you're going to submit via mail, where you fill out forms that describe how you meet the minimum qualifications and all the experience that you have. And then those packages are processed 4 times a year. And what will happen is you'll receive your results in the mail. And if you are deemed eligible, they will send you a statement saying that, you know, you are eligible for the job classification, you have been added to the eligibility list. And then that's when you'll actually start looking for jobs, which is where going back to the CalCareers homepage, you're going to go to advanced job search instead of exam assessment search. And you're going to look up Inspector 1 in the classification, and that'll pull up all of the jobs that are currently open that you can apply for. The board is consistently posting inspector jobs for multiple counties throughout the state. So we strongly encourage you to get on that eligibility list and start looking for positions. I am going to say that if you're not familiar with the CalCareers website and don't really know how to navigate that and kind of what I'm referring to, I want you to go ahead and reach out to us via email so that I can provide you all of that information. I'll ask the moderator, maybe can I throw my email address in the chat, or what would be the best way to get this person the contact information?
Absolutely. Throw an email address into the Q&A box,
Perfect. I'm
either
going to
by
do that right
responding to
now.
somebody directly or making your own question.
Perfect. I am the HR liaison for the board. So if there's any, I want a job with the state board related questions, please reach out to me. And then, David, it's not letting me send it in the chat, if you could give me that access.
That's not going to be possible. I think we
okay.
can only respond to questions that are asked.
Is there a way to do that? To send it to her directly? Is that what you mean?
No. We're going to need to post something on the screen.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it. We'll figure out a way to get you that contact information. The other thing that I wanted to mention also is if you are familiar with the board's website, we do have a link to job opportunities on there, and we do post links to our job postings.
Shelby, I put in the question and answers, the link for our job opportunities.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carrie. And you will find my contact information on those job postings. So you can actually get my email there, and you can email me if you need any additional help. Thank you, Shelby.
Next, we're going to hear from Keith. Hold on just a moment. We're seeing a request to mute your microphone. Let's hold request to mute your microphone.
I put my questions in the box also, but something that we come across quite a bit is renewed their license and the website shows that it's valid and renewed, but they have not received it in the mail. And we want to know, are they able to work even though they have not received that hard copy in the mail yet?
Alex, you want to take that?
Yes. So they, according to our laws, they should have that license displayed before they can be providing services. It has to be displayed for the public to see. But if you haven't gotten that license in the mail, go ahead and reach out to us by email, and we will do our best to get you another one sent. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And can I ask a few questions? Is that okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So our clippers, do they need to be in a closed labeled container? Because a lot of our stylists are using cordless clippers that have like a charging dock on their station.
One second. Gary?
Yes. So clippers that are soiled need to be placed in a container that's labeled soiled, dirty, or contaminated. Disinfected clippers shall be stored in a clean place. So it doesn't necessarily have to be labeled, but it has to be in a clean place. Clean tools shall be stored in a clean place Dirty tools have to be in a container labeled soiled, dirty, or contaminated.
Okay, so can you define clean place, please?
It has to be where it's not getting hair on it, where it's not laying in hair. It has to be clean. You can hang them on your, some barber shops hang them once they're clean.
Mhm.
You can hang them as long as they're going to remain clean.
Right. So we do that too. And does that area need to be labeled even though it's not in a closed container?
Clean does not have to be labeled.
Doesn't
For
have to be.
clippers. For clippers.
Clippers. Okay. Can you make a recommendation for those who use the cordless ones and then they dock them? So those, they can't really hang them if they're charging them. How should we stay in compliance with those?
I'll go ahead and jump in, Carrie. If they're docked because they're either, I assume they're charging, correct?
Yes.
So that just has to be in a clean place. So if it's on the station, you need to just make sure that station's clean. You're not going to get cited if they're sitting there and they're clean and if we were to walk in and there's hair all around it, but the clippers look clean, well, that's not a clean place. So you want to make sure you're keeping the area around it clean. We understand that they have to be plugged in and charging. If it's dirty, it can't be plugged in and charging. It would need to be stored in a container. So when you have them out and when you have them charging, you always want to make sure that everything around them is clean and that they are clean themselves.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Thank you. And then my last one is the brush that we use to clean the clippers with. Sometimes they use like a tint brush or one of those manicure brushes to get the hair off of the clipper. Those brushes, those should be in a closed labeled soiled container, yes?
Yes.
Okay, do they have to be alone or can they be with other soiled implements?
They can be with other soiled implements.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Katsumi. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone. All right, Katsumi, we're going to try again. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone. All right, let's move along to Colleen. Hold on just a moment. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Oh, excellent. So my questions are at the very top of the Q&A, but I will say them verbally. Will you have any similar seminar specific to electrologists?
So this is something new that we're doing. So that's a great idea, and we'd be happy to look into that.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, because needles go into a different, yeah, we can talk about needles in a different way.
Definitely.
Right on. And then I have multiple licenses, so it's all beneficial. That form for the inspection that the inspector has, I guess it's NCR paper, that the yellow, I think you said, goes to the violator.
Yes.
Is the information on that form available ahead of time so we can make sure that we are ticking all boxes? Is it available for it?
We do have a self-inspection sheet that is on our website, and that is almost mirrors what is on that form completely. And it's a great tool to use in your salon because it's what we're looking for. And we made it kind of a checklist for you to check off yes or no. And that is on our website.
Right. Is there any, what would it be under? Like an outline form? Do you kind of just real quick what it would be under? Just forms? Like Shelby went through.
I will
I have
tell
that
you.
information. So it's actually, if you go to our website and click the publications tab.
Okay, I'm writing it down.
Okay. And then from there, you're going to click inspection resources.
Okay.
And the inspection worksheet is listed right there.
The inspection worksheet. Excellent. And oh, the other question that I just on basic inquiry is that the board might approve an application for an establishment but the city may not allow it based on the city. Can you speak to that? What do you?
I would say if the city's not approving it, then you should go with what the city is regulating.
Well, yeah, nothing's been submitted. It's just basic inquiry all around, but such as like are people actually having well, my thoughts were, and I think what I had heard is that people like with the rage on granny flat, people are having establishments in there. If that's approved by the board, are they approved by the board? I guess was question one, and two, yeah, well, maybe address that.
Yeah, so we do have home establishment licenses. So technically, I mean, a granny flat, depending on the layout of it, could be approved by the board. It's just all dependent on quite a few factors. But yes, that's an option.
Okay, but you said there are those stipulations where you can have it in a residence, but it's a separate thing, following the guidelines, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, the specific city that I live in, they don't allow either. So, okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Thanks for doing this as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we're going to hear from Courtney, followed by Avi. Hold on, Courtney. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
I really appreciate it. I had some questions about body contouring, body sculpting. Are estheticians allowed? If not, why not? And if they are, do they need to be under a medical supervisor?
At this time, they are not. It is considered the practice of medicine per the medical board. So if you have any questions specifically relating to body contouring and how one would work under a physician, that would have to go to the medical board. We wouldn't be able to answer that. But from our scope of practice, estheticians are not allowed to do that.
Also, when a long time ago, they took away dermaplaning from estheticians in California. Are they allowed to perform dermaplaning facials again?
Yes, that went back into the law in believe January 2021.
Okay, and then could you provide me the medical board? Like, how do I contact them?
I don't have their contact in front of me, but their website, you can Google California Medical Board and it'll pop right up.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Next, we're going to hear from Avi, followed by Austin. Hold on, Avi. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hi. Perfect. So I was looking into opening some salon suites, and I wanted to know, is it something that I need to have for the whole establishment, an establishment license, or does each suite owner need to have their own establishment license?
So it kind of
Oh,
depends
sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead, Alex.
The layout, but generally, like if it's kind of set up like a solo salon, and there's all those separate suites, usually like going down a hallway or something of that nature, you would each need your own establishment license.
Okay. And then in that case, would I be able to rent to a microblading artist?
I don't see why not, but they shouldn't be associating their services with, your services or anything under our license types.
Yes, correct. Okay, so in that case, everybody needs to have their own establishment license in each suite, and then I can rent to a microblading artist as long as the whole building is not licensed under me.
Correct.
Okay,
They should
perfect.
just keep their services separate.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Next, we're going to have Austin, followed by Kelly Page. Hold on, Austin. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, good morning. I have a couple questions. My first question is if a barber student gets caught by state board working in a barber shop, um, I just want to clarify what happens to that student. Is it like they get put on like a 2-year wait list to take their license test? They also get that $1,000 fine. I also heard it was like a misdemeanor. I just want to kind of get some clarification on that.
It can be one of all of that you mentioned. It often depends, but we definitely don't want students performing services prior to being licensed. So it is a $1,000 fine. It could impact their exam, and it can be a misdemeanor.
Will they just get like a letter in the mail and just letting them know what the state decides with them? Like, is that like a no, like warning or anything? It's just a one and done kind of thing?
Correct.
Okay. And then also, if you're actively cutting a client and state board walks in, are they allowed to go to your station and start looking through your drawers and taking all the pictures and try to do all that?
They are. We are, our goal is to try to not disrupt any services as much as possible, but they will often double check your station if a client is there.
Okay, and then if they like I've seen it where the state board will kind of give them time to let the client leave, and then they give them a little bit of a window to kind of clean their stuff, because obviously you're gonna have hair on your tools that you just used.
Right. Absolutely.
But like, can they still fine you for that?
They should not write that down. If you have just finished with a client, we know that that's a, we're looking to see if there's hair on your station. You just finished with a client, and say you just finished with a client that had black hair, but there's a bunch of blonde hair on your station, then that's what
Right.
this concern's going to be.
Right. Okay. And then one more question.
Uh,
Can you clarify the neck dusters, like how to properly, I feel like in barbershops, like we see like need clarification on how to like neck dusters to get around that so we're not getting fined.
you don't use them.
Right. That's
To
what
be
I was
quite
thinking
honest,
too.
those neck dusters are so ugly. I mean, they can be so dirty. We highly recommend you not use them at all. We do have a section in our regulation. I don't have it right in front of me right now. I don't. So they do have to be cleaned. However, they are very hard to clean. We highly
Right.
recommend you use a towel instead of a neck duster.
Right. Okay. I had a state board tell me that to just buy multiple, and then while like one's cleaned and being disinfected and drying, because they take forever to dry, then you can have a nice clean one ready to go. I just wasn't sure if those had, while they're being cleaned, are they being submerged in the barbicide, or like what's the proper way if a barber's going to use one?
So if a barber is going to use one, I'm looking right now at the regulation, they have to have, you have to remove all the visible debris. You have to clean it with soap and water, and then you have to dry it. So it's
Okay.
so soap and water is fine.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to have Kelly Page, followed by Crystal. Hold on, Kelly. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Awesome. Okay, so I have a couple of questions. Some are from me and some are from my renters. Number one, is a drawer considered that is labeled soiled? Is that considered a soiled container? Or is the expectation that soiled containers be inside the drawer with the soiled items?
The drawer can be the container.
Okay, perfect. The second question is, we have some people that do weddings, and their $1 million question is, are they covered under their license on site? My response to that was no, that they're only covered in a licensed establishment, and that there's a personal service permit available. Am I correct in that advice?
You are absolutely correct. They need to get the personal service permit to be able to do that.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. You're answering all my questions. I had a microblader come to me. I ended up not doing it, but she brought me a lot of like health department requirements. My question is, if I ever decided to have a microblader in my private room, because I do have a private room, what would I need to have in there for her to do her job? Like, what is the requirement? It's a closed door, it's a private room, it's separate from the hair salon.
So that would be totally fine. One of the things we highly recommend you do, even though it's not technically in our regulations, is just to make sure you label everything separately. So label things that the microblader is using for microblading. That way, when the inspector comes in, because even though it's a separate room, we will inspect it. It's part of the establishment. But that way, it's very clear to the inspector that this is the microblading tools. And that would be totally fine. And that's what we recommend you do, just for clarity.
Okay, and on that note, what are the parameters if I wanted to use that room for something else? Say a hairdresser wanted it as a private room, but it's just a room and it doesn't have a shampoo bowl. Am I in violation? Because there is some debate amongst owners in my town about what needs to be in there plumbing wise. There's access to a shampoo bowl right outside the door. Can you speak on that?
As long as there's access, unless anybody else on my staff wants to jump in, but I believe that's fine. You have to have access to a restroom, you have to have access to running water, but it doesn't say that it has to be exactly in that room. So to me, it would be fine.
Okay, awesome. I have two more. Hang with me. You guys are doing amazing. If I were to add a barber to my list, I know there's a whole bunch of parameters about what can and can't be in the salon for barbers versus hairstylists. If we brought in a barber, they'd be bringing in straight blades and things like that. Are those things allowed as long as they hold all the necessary licenses? Can we have a mix?
Absolutely.
Perfect. And then my last question is kind of an odd one. I don't know if you guys can answer. When I look over the regulations, it basically says that any fine my renters create falls on me, my establishment license, and my personal. At what point is that going to be separated? In California in particular, we have AB5, which basically states that I'm a landlord and they're a tenant. So I find it odd that if there's such a separation between them being a tenant and me a landlord, that any violation they occur comes directly to me.
I agree. It is definitely something that we are looking at. We do have a law that says if we can determine who made that violation, then that goes to the individual and not the owner. So we've taken some steps in the right direction, but understand there's still more that we could be looking at. And I do believe the board will be looking more at how we can make that clear for you all who have independent contractors.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I own another business with employees and do HR, so I'm quite familiar with AB5. And this has always been like a struggle for me, that I'm responsible for every little thing that they do, yet I'm their landlord and don't really have a lot of say in what and how they do it. And so I'm excited to hear that there's some bridging of that gap.
Yes, thank you.
And then my very, very last question is, as an establishment owner, what things need to be displayed for clients to see? I'm aware it's my establishment license and my business license and the consumer affairs contact information. Is there anything else I need to be displaying for clients besides those 3 items?
I'm actually getting that up right now for you because there's a few different flyers you need to have displayed.
Okay,
Just
great.
one
Thank
moment.
you. Sorry, I'm a relatively new owner. I'm working on month 7, so I'm definitely learning here. And I'm so grateful you guys are doing this.
No problem. So we have our consumer notice that should be displayed.
I have that.
Okay, perfect. There is the Department of Industrial Relations posting notice that also needs to be displayed.
Okay.
Okay, and then there's the Prevention of Gender-Based Discrimination posting. And the
Okay.
last one is our human trafficking notice.
Okay. Where would I find those last three that you said? The Department of Industrial,
Let me
the
see if I
gender
can put the
bias, and
link.
then the human trafficking.
You know what? It's not letting me put the link in the chat here. The
If you tell
Department
it
of
to me, I'll write
Industrial.
it down.
It's a little bit long.
Oh,
I
sorry.
would look up, maybe just search on the Department of Industrial Relations website, and then
Alex, I believe we have those all on our forms and applications page.
Oh, excellent.
let's see.
And under
We do. It's on, so it's under forms and applications. Click establishments and mobile units,
Okay.
and then you'll find each of those right there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you letting me ask all those questions, and this has been incredibly helpful. I'm so grateful you guys are doing this, and I hope you do more of it.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to hear from Crystal, followed by Stephanie Guzman. Hold on just a second, Crystal. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, good morning. How are you? Thank you so much for taking the time to answer the questions of everyone. I have a couple of questions. A couple have been tapped on, but I just wanted to get a little bit more specific. In regards to the microblading artist, if there is a person who has a license, she's licensed as an esthetician, and she's employed and she does esthetician work, but then also does microblading, and we have a separate room and a different agreement that that's something that she's doing independently on her own, in a separate room. Is that okay? And if so, what is necessary in that room? Because she obviously will have her license listed in an open area, but in that private room, she's only using once a week. Is there anything specific that has to be in that room, or is that against
There's nothing
anything?
specific that has to be in that room. The main thing you want to do is not have her esthetician license posted when she is doing the microblading, because that's not within the scope of her esthetician license. So she just, and she can use that room. They can be in the same room. You just want to make sure that license is only posted when the services that are being performed are within that scope of that license.
So even so, for example, we have more of an open floor environment. So where her license is placed is where she would do her normal duties. And then the room is private. So could she have, like, say, her tattooing license in that room, and then the esthetician license in the main room, so she doesn't have to take it off, every Wednesday?
We would have no problem with that.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And then my next question is for the body contouring piece. So I was reading the documents in regards to what's invasive versus what's invasive. And in that document, when it comes to certain body contouring pieces, such as EMS, it says this might, or may, I should say, may, in quotations, may be considered invasive. However, with technology, some things are considered non-invasive. So it's really ambiguous when it comes to that. There's really no, it's very contradicting. So it's like, what?
So it's not really about the procedure being invasive. It's more about what the consumer is, the intent of the service. And if somebody is advertising that they can reduce cellulite or that they can treat weight loss, that's where it becomes a medical procedure, because estheticians or any of our licensees are not licensed to treat a condition. And when you're looking at reducing cellulite, that is going beyond beautification. And that is what the medical board will look at, the fact that it is treating the cellulite to make it less appear, or if you're treating weight loss, that is a condition that you're treating, and that is where, so it's all about the delivery of the intent to the consumer. You cannot treat for services that are beyond the scope. So regardless if it's invasive, regardless if you can buy a machine on Amazon for, you know, a cheap amount of, and it's going to say that it reduces your cellulite and your legs, that is, you're performing a service that is treating a condition that is considered medical.
Got you. Okay, perfect. And specifically, where would I, because I went on your site and I was looking for that checklist with the inspection. And I was like, oh my goodness, this doesn't really say much. Everything has to be labeled. And then again, put away in a container, or it doesn't say, does something have to be locked versus something doesn't have to be locked. For example, like our cleaning supplies, does that have to be locked versus not? Where we put our towels in the cabinets, does that have to be locked versus not? I had
I
a
don't
friend.
believe any of our regulations say that anything has to be locked.
Okay.
In fact, we
Okay.
recommend things are not locked because our inspectors do have to have access to everything. And if by some chance an inspector comes in and there's a locked cabinet that no one in the salon, perhaps you have the key and you ran out for lunch and nobody can open that, that's a violation because the inspector has to have access to everything.
Okay. All right. Luckily, we do keep certain things locked because we do sell supplies. So, and it's in the access where clients can get to it, but there's always a key here in the salon. And then lastly, my last question, so thank you for answering that. My last question was, in my salon, I also utilize it to rent out sometimes, maybe once every couple of months. So it's not open to the public. My concern is what happens if, obviously it says the sign is closed, so no, everyone's aware. But what happens if an inspector comes and it's one of those days where the salon is being rented out and the inspector can't get in? Because once it's rented, they will not open the doors, because my concern is, obviously consumers, we don't want any of our consumers in during those processes. What happens if they come and the salon is closed?
So the law states that an inspector should have access at any time during business hours or if services are being performed. So if you have a salon that the door is locked and there's a sign that says closed, but we see services being performed inside, that's a violation.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Perfect. That answered all of my questions. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Stephanie Guzman, followed by Brittany Belkarob. Hold on just a moment, Stephanie. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone. All right, Stephanie, we're going to try again. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone. All right, we're going to move along to Brittany. Hold on just a moment. Brittany, we're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
I have just one or questions. The first one is about, you know, the dustpans that you sweep up the hair with and they're on a stick or like a handle. Okay, I know that you're not supposed to keep those next to the station. If they have hair inside of them, you're supposed to empty them every time. What if the dustpan has a lid on it, like that closes, like a trash can? Are you able to keep that with hair next to the station, or does that still have to be emptied every time if you label it like hair only?
Let's see. I'm asking any of my staff on the call if they have the answer to that.
I'm sorry, Christy, I didn't hear the question. I was answering a chat. What was the question?
Should I repeat it?
Yes, please.
So I got it. The question is if you have a dustpan that has a lid on it, is that acceptable? And I think it would be okay. The law says that you have to have one closed container for the disposal of hair. That the intent is that we can, you don't want hair flying around. So I'm assuming, you know, if you have that container that you're sweeping into, it's labeled, it's closed, that's kind of your closed container. So I think that would be okay.
Okay, great. And then the second question, it's touching on a question that you guys answered earlier regarding what needs to be posted inside of a salon, if you're the establishment owner. Do you have to post, I know the establishment license, but do you have to post anything beside that if you don't have employees, like if they're independent contractors? Or do you still need to have that's all those things that you mentioned earlier?
So all of the postings should be from earlier should be posted, except let me look at this industrial relations one because I believe this was for employee-based salons. One moment. It does talk about its classification of an employee versus an independent contractor. So I do think you also need that one posted.
Okay. And then would they be, I know the establishment license and the consumer, I don't remember what it's called, the consumer notice, those have to be posted in the reception area, but do all of those notices that you mentioned earlier have to be in the reception area, or is it just the establishment and consumer and business license? And the other ones are like in the back for the stylists.
So the industrial relations one could be like in your break area because that's for your employees to look at.
Okay.
And the gender-based discrimination one, I'm so sorry. Some of these are not from our department, so I'm trying to look them up right now just to be sure.
It's no problem. I appreciate it.
So the gender-based discrimination one also needs to be in your reception area.
Okay.
And then look, the human trafficking notice should be in your reception area, and the consumer notice also needs to be in your reception area.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And we're going to take a quick pause here. David, if you could reopen the Q&A. We have several hundred questions in the Q&A. We have been answering them as we can get to them, but we're just going to take some time and go through these real quick. Some of them may have been answered already, but I'll just go ahead and see if we can get through some of these before we get too far ahead of ourselves. And so let's see. Are inspections going on in Orange County? Yes, inspections are conducted in every county. Can a new licensee open an establishment? Yes, you do not have to be a licensee to open an establishment. I believe we got all the inspector questions, so I'm just going to go through these. For everybody that needs our email address, it is barbercosmo@dca.ca.gov. Are the owners required to have a license? Again, if they work the front desk, no, they do not. You can have a receptionist working your front desk, and owners do not need to have an individual license. We talked about the paperwork being shown for the establishment license. Would a roll of nail forms need to be in a closed container or a drawer? If they are reusable, they should be in a drawer or a container labeled new. If an inspector shows up when you are working on a client doing a hair removal or an intimate area, you need to let the inspector know they should not be entering a closed door. They might knock lightly, but they should not be entering a closed room for those purposes. I'm going to scroll down. Not sure where we left off. If a client makes a false claim, what do we do to protect ourselves? Yeah, I would talk to your legal counsel on that. Any complaint we receive, we do investigate that. And by investigating that means we do talk to you as well. So keep that in mind. Tinting and eyebrows, the stylist, is that still illegal? Estheticians and cosmetologists can tint. They have to use a specified product that must contain silver nitrate in the ingredient. So you need to look at your ingredient and make sure that silver nitrate is listed as an ingredient. Carrie, I'm not sure if do we know if these have been read? Okay, I'll just keep going.
What do you mean red?
We've answered some. David, can somebody tell me if the questions in the chat have actually been seen by the people who asked them?
The questions are visible to everyone.
Thank you. That's what I needed to know. We have been trying to answer these, so I knew I was probably repeating what we've already answered. So let's get to, do hairdressing client capes need to be washed after each client? Washed ones in clean, closed container. So let's just say capes and smocks are different. Smocks have to follow the regulations. If you are using a cape, as long as they are not touching someone's skin, they do not have to be washed after each use. So you should be using a neck strip or a towel so that cape doesn't touch the skin. If independent contractors are in a salon, why are both independent contractors and the establishment owner charge the penalty amount? That is the way our laws and regulations read right now. An establishment owner is responsible for all health and safety that takes place in a salon, regardless what the employment relationship is with the individuals. Will we be reviewing anything for the aesthetics practice? We were not going into specifics, but if you have a question, we're trying to get through these questions. I will say we had well over 700 people today, and it looks like lots of you have had questions, so we're super happy for that. We are trying to get through all of your questions. Do braiders have to be licensed as well now? No, braiding is exempt. The same goes for threading. In case of dry pedicures, what equipment log should we use? If you're not using a pedicure tub of any way, then there is no log that you would need. With citations, are you given an opportunity to correct the issue before being fined, or is the fine mandatory? And is there a reinspection with a citation? So you're not given an opportunity to correct it while the inspector is there. Any violation that the inspector finds should be corrected immediately. We do re-inspections depending on what we found. We, for instance, if we have cited you for the practice of medicine, say you're using something famous that's called the hyaluron pen, which is not acceptable for any of our licensees, we will follow up. We're going to follow up if we're finding things that can be of severe harm to a consumer. Log sheet for foot yes, we do have a log sheet for those foot spas on our website. Does a nail salon have to have a license as well as the nail tech? Do both need to have a license? So we issue establishment licenses. We do not differentiate between nail salons, hair salons. Everyone who has any of these services must have an establishment license. And yes, absolutely every single person that is performing any type of service to a consumer must hold an individual license. And I'm going to pause for 1 second, and Carrie and I are going to change hands right now.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, so the next question is, we own a med spa and a Phoenix salons, 2 doors. Do we need a license for both rooms? You could have a license that encompasses both rooms if they are connected. So you could have the license issued to 123 Sesame Street, Suites 1 and 2. And then if you are a med spa, do I still need to have no needles in the esthetician room, who is also a medical assistant? The rules regarding a medical assistant are those of the med board, so I cannot speak to that. If an inspector was to come in, please let the inspector know that that esthetician is also a medical assistant, and they will make those notes on the paperwork that they're filling out. And then once the paperwork gets to the office, the Cite and Find staff will determine what needs to be cited and if any additional questions need to be answered. Hello, can I get these questions in the field? Footwear, are sandals okay? The board does not have any rules or regulations regarding footwear. Is an unlicensed individual able to support with sweeping and laundry? Yes, but if they are doing anything that would lead the inspector to believe that they're providing a service when the inspector's in the establishment, you can be cited for an unlicensed individual. So make sure they're just sweeping or doing the laundry. They're not putting capes on people. They're not washing people's hair. If the inspector sees those kind of things, they'll be cited for unlicensed activity. We have issues receiving our inspection report at the time of inspection. How can we make sure we receive them? The inspector should be handing you the inspection report at the time of inspection. I'm not sure why that would be an issue. I share a station with another stylist and she is not neat. Will and can I get a violation when I'm working for her cabinets, which are next to mine? How will the inspector know what is mine? That's a good question. You would need to let the inspector know what is yours and what is the other person's. And then the inspector will have to cite how they see fit. If it's something that you get fined for, you can appeal that. Do my clippers need to be in a closed labeled container? They need to be in a closed label container if they are soiled. What if I use a cordless charger? They would still need to be in a closed container if they're soiled. And can I sit it on my station uncovered? Not when they're soiled, but if they're clean, you can leave them on your station uncovered, as long as it's a clean area. I saw an online video that nail drill bits can be cleaned by being soaked in acetone. Is this true or false? Nail drill bits would need to be cleaned according to 979, and that would not be acetone. That would be a virucidal, fungicidal, and oh gosh, what's the other one? Bactericidal product. What licenses, certifications should be displayed in the spa salon? I think we already went over that. Alex, it was human trafficking, the consumer information notice, gender-based pricing, and labor laws.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have our license with us, or can we have a picture of it on our phone? You need to have your original license posted at your primary workstation. What if we are scared to lose it? Can we make a photocopy? You can make a photocopy, but you have to have the original posted. And if you lose it, you can request a duplicate at www.breeze.ca.gov. Has there been any changes with tint or lashes and brows? Estheticians and cosmetologists can provide those services provided the product has been approved by the FDA. What about nano infusion? I'm thinking that is along the lines of microneedling, and that is not allowed by any board licensee. This webinar will be recorded and it will be on our website in approximately 2 weeks. What qualifications are needed to become an inspector? I think we talked about that in depth at the beginning of our question and answer section. And you can also go to our board website. On the front page, there is a link for job opportunities, and there's information about inspectors there as well. It says we're not allowed to use the bathroom as storage. Is it okay if we just have a cabinet in there with bathroom related stuff such as bath tissue, or cabinets also not allowed? Cabinets are allowed, and incidental things like bath tissue is fine, but you can't have like cases of bath tissue stacked up in the bathroom, or a mop and bucket that somebody could trip over. I work in one person salon, seeing one client at a time. If state board comes into the spa, does the inspector have the right to come into my salon and go through everything while the client is in my chair? The inspector should be mindful that you have a client, and if they are inspecting while you're providing a service, they should be cause as little interruption as possible. I'm an RN. Would I be able to do microneedling? You need to discuss that with the Bureau for the Board of Registered Nursing. What is the penalty for anyone who is unlicensed and providing services but currently in school? How will it affect us? I think we talked about this earlier, that you will be fined for providing services without a license. And you would still be allowed to take the exam, but if we keep finding you unlicensed, we could deny your license because you're doing things that are not allowed. Can aesthetics go do BB glowing? I'm not sure what that service is. Does anybody know what that service is?
I don't believe they can do that, but that is something you might want to send us an email.
Okay. We were just inspected for the first time and had no establishment license and knew nothing about it. The previous owner also did not have one. Is this new? No, that's not new. You need to have an establishment license anywhere services are being provided. When the resort and spa was purchased 5 years ago, it was open for 18 years prior to that with no establishment license. Do we just do the application and it's approved? Complete the application and send it in with the documents that we're requesting, and we will review it. And as long as all the answers to the questions are provided and there's nothing that would keep it from being approved, then yes, it will be approved. You won't be penalized because it hasn't been licensed in the past. If we use plastic liners on our pedicure bowls and we change them after each pedicure, do we need to fill out the log form just to state this? Yes, you need to clean out the log after you do pedicure services, even if you're using a liner. The pedicure bowl or basin still needs to be rinsed and cleaned. So yes, you still need to use the log. Does my brush that I clean my clippers with need to be kept in a soiled container? Yes, and it doesn't have to be kept from any other soil. All soiled items can be in the same container. We had an inspection in our salon, but I haven't received the citation and it's been over 45 days. Is there a way to check the citation online? No, citations are not posted online. You can send an email to our email address, barbercosmo@dca.ca.gov, and put citation in the subject line, and then we will see if we can find your citation.
Carrie, would you like me to take over?
Yes, thank you.
All right. I work at a dermatologist and our rooms are set up for dual aesthetics and medical. Therefore, we have medical supplies and sharps in the cabinets for them. Is this acceptable to have when we are using the rooms for aesthetics? Yes, it is acceptable. You want to make sure, and if you're working for a dermatologist, hopefully this is all taken care of, but we will verify that that dermatologist office does have a fictitious name permit registered with the Medical Board of California. And then we always recommend try to keep all your tools as separate as possible and everything labeled, and you will be fine. The next question just says breeze, so we're not sure if that was a question on breeze. When working in a salon suite building, does every individual suite need their own establishment license? Yes, that is pretty much how most suites are doing it. When suites first started, there was one establishment license for the entire building, but your suite really is your own establishment, so you need to have an establishment license for each suite that's within those buildings. Is aesthetics need to have certification for lashes or brow lamination separately? No, lashes and brow lamination are part of the scope of practice for aesthetics and cosmetology. You must have that license to do one of those services. If you are performing lashes without a license, that is a violation. The Breeze website account. Breeze is at, if you need to know the Breeze address, it's, and Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's Breeze, BREEZE at dca.ca.gov.
www.breeze.ca.gov.
Next question is, how are state board going to identify independent contractors and employees in the same business? At this time, we do not do that. Everyone that's working in the establishment we are only checking to make sure you have our license and that the establishment is licensed. What is the specs on equipment to be considered micro-channeling? Is there a specific depth to stay under? No, there is not. The question of depth is concerning because you cannot pierce the skin, you cannot perform an invasive procedure, so you really need to check to make sure that you are not crossing into the medical field. I have a business and don't have an establishment. Am I going to get penalized for not having one? If you are providing our services in your establishment, excuse me, yes, that is a violation. So you need to have an establishment license, and you can apply for that online. It's a $50 application, so you can get that as quick as possible. We're running about 6 weeks for processing on those, but we highly recommend you get that. Does a tattoo license allow one to microblade? That is not within our realm of regulation, so you should check with your local health department on that. Can you be a barber under a cosmetology license, or do I have to attend barber school and get the license separately? If you want to perform specifically barber services, you must be licensed as a barber. Cosmetologists are not licensed to shave, so you can go back to school and take an additional, I believe it's about 200 hours, and then you would need to take and pass the barber exam. They are separate, just like a barber cannot do skin and nails. Are there any practice state board tests for an esthetician on your website or available from the state board? We do not provide practice tests. PSI may provide practice tests. Alex, do you know that?
They don't provide practice tests that I'm aware of, but we do have our or PSI's examination like bulletin on our website, and it gives you an outline of what will be on the exam. So that would be the most helpful tool that I am aware of.
All right, thank you. Can an esthetician perform body sculpting? We've touched on that, and the answer is no. If the manicurist have their soiled tools and drill bits in the soiled can that can placed in their service cart, would it be okay? You can have your soiled tools and drill bits in a soiled can, and it can be labeled, and that would be fine. However, if the inspector observes you using those soiled tools on another person, that's where you're going to have a significant violation. Are you able to open an esthetician salon from your home if you meet the requirements stated by the board? Yes, we have lots of home salons. Can a new licensee open an establishment? Again, there's no requirements for who can open an establishment. You do not have to have a license. Something was asked about microneedling. Is microchanneling allowed? No needles. The silicone stamp, would that be allowed for estheticians? If it's a silicone stamp, that would be allowed.
I can take over, Christy.
Great, go ahead.
Is it mandatory to have clean disinfectant container in a solo esthetician room? If you have clean and disinfected items, yes. All your clean and disinfected items should be in a container labeled clean or disinfected. Are vajacials allowed in California, and are estheticians allowed to perform them? I'm not sure how to answer this one. We don't have any regulations regarding that specifically. What are the requirements to open an esthetician room from home in California? Where do I find the information from this? You need to look at our establishment application, and then you can open your home salon. Make sure you check with your local county to make sure that it's allowed in your county. We are currently using barbicide. This requires to be emptied every day or replaced. This feels wasteful. Do you know of another submergible disinfectant that's approved and lasts a bit longer than a day? We do not know. We cannot say like you should use this product or this product. You need to do your research and find if there's a product that is bactericidal, fungicidal, and bactericidal that will meet the requirements. I'm a salon owner and have a permanent makeup artist who is a licensed esthetician wanting to work in my shop, and I want to know if there's specific rules and regulations with the board. We just recommend that you keep the permanent makeup supplies separate from the esthetician supplies, and that you let that inspector know that you are a permanent makeup artist when they're there. Can a medical practitioner do microneedling? Example, nurses, nurse practitioner, or any doctors at any something about any medical specialty. You would need to check with the medical board and the nursing boards as to what nurses, nurse practitioners, and doctors can do in any setting. Electrologists use tweezer with a point. How is that? Okay, I think they're asking about the tweezers and electrologists. And they use tweezers with a point. Electrologists, the inspectors will see what you're using those tweezers for, and then they'll make a determination as to whether or not you'll be cited or not. Can a non-licensed person get certified to do lash extensions? No. Well, yes, they can get certified to do lash extensions, but you can't legally provide lash extension services without a cosmetology or an esthetician license. Is it possible to skip through the violation slideshow one more time? I want to be absolutely sure I covered everything. The slideshow will be put on our website in a couple weeks. And the most important tool that you can use to make sure you're in compliance is our self-inspection checklist. So we go to our website and get our self-inspection checklist. That will help you stay in compliance. And it covers all the violations that we talked about and more. Is it possible? Okay, we already read that. Can aesthetics do dermaplaning facial? Yes. Estheticians and cosmetologists can provide dermaplaning services. When I was at a trade show in California, ProCell said they had authorization for estheticians to provide the service legally. So I wanted to see if that was correct. If the ProCell has the needles on it, then the estheticians cannot provide that service within the scope of their practice.
I'll take over, Carrie.
Okay, thank you.
All right, can the sanitized solution and container where tools are sanitized be stored in the bathroom on a shelf? No, they cannot. You cannot use your bathroom for storage when that comes to any type of salon product or cleaning service. I have a question about from the Department of Industrial Relations. We are not here with them today, but if you want to look up the Department of Industrial Relations in California, you can email them, I'm sure. Do you need a labeled dirty container if all tools are fully cleaned and disinfected after each client? Technically, no. It might spark the inspector to look a little further, and you really want to make sure if that's how you operate your business, you want to really make sure you don't have any dirty tools at any given time that aren't labeled. Let's see, referring to the gentleman wanting to open a salon in California, can a cosmetologist license perform barbering? Again, barbers are barbers and cosmetologists are cosmetologists. You can be licensed as both, but to perform services within each scope, you have to hold those separate licenses. What's the rules about home services and how would you go about getting approved to do home services? Do you need an extra license? You need to have the personal service permit. So the personal service permit allows limited services, and keep in mind it's limited services. So I recommend anyone who's interested in this go on our website to determine what those services are. And that is you would need to get that personal service permit. It becomes attached to your existing license, and then you can do services outside of a licensed establishment. Is cupping or gua sha acceptable as a facial massage for estheticians? Can a nurse esthetician perform microchanneling? So just so you know, there is no such thing as a nurse esthetician. There might be a nurse and there might be an esthetician, but we do not have a nurse esthetician license. Other states might have that. Cupping is definitely considered practice of medicine. And again, when it comes to these nurses who are dual licensed, you have to make sure you are following within what your state board requires. So nurses need to be in contact with the Board of Registered Nursing, and everyone who's skipping into these medical field need to talk to the California Medical Board. I'm not familiar with gua sha, so we would have to look that up. In a school, do all trash cans still need to be covered? Instructors licensed or no license needed? So trash cans have to be covered that have hair in them. So you have to have at least one, but if you're putting hair in any trash can, that trash can has to be covered. We do not license instructors here in California. What is Shelby's email address? That will be on our website. You can contact her, I believe, through the job opportunities postings. I have seen more and more people doing wedding hair not in salon establishment. Is it legal? Some stylists do not even have a license. Well, that would definitely not be legal. You have to have a license to perform those services, and you have to have a personal service permit if you are not doing those services within an establishment. How long does it take to obtain a personal service permit for a cosmetologist? Alex, is it running about 4 weeks? Alex? Okay, I think Alex, we may have lost her, so I believe it's running about 4 to 5 weeks. Will this recording be available afterwards? Yes, it will be available afterwards. We should have this up on our website in a couple of weeks. Do we have to Do we have to have our license with us, or can we have a picture of it on our phone? I think we answered that already. Licenses have to be posted. Is nanoneedling, microchanneling permitted for estheticians? We don't like to hear anything with the word needle in it because needles are not allowed. Microchanneling, it's going to depend on what you're doing with that service. If there's a silicone pyramid type tip, those can be used, but you have to be very careful as there's a very fine line there between crossing over into the medical field. I think I'm getting duplicate questions here, so I'm going to try to scroll through. How does one look into opening a barbering school or an apprentice program? Do we need to attend classes to teach? So you do not need to attend classes to teach. And we do have information on our website. At the top of our homepage, we have a link for both schools and for apprenticeships, and that will provide you the information that you need on how to do both of those programs.
I can jump in, Christy.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it still 1,600 hours for cosmetology license? No, that was reduced to 1,000 hours for cosmetology license. And barbers also went to 1,000 hours. Can items be stored in a dresser in open, organized tray labeled? Or does the dresser also need to be labeled with everything inside? Can items be stored in a dresser? That they can be stored in a dresser with a label that says clean or soiled. The whole dresser doesn't have to be labeled, but the drawer can be labeled whether everything in there is clean or soiled, or the container that's in the dresser drawer can be labeled clean or soiled. Are owner required to have an establishment license if they work at the front desk? If the owner is not providing board regulated services, they do not need to be licensed. Will the common violation slides be available? Yes, they will be available in a few weeks on our website. I would like the info regarding state board inspector eligibility. They've left their email address here, Shelby. Maybe you can grab that, or you can go on our website. On the front page at the bottom, there is a job opportunities link. Are paper copies of the establishment license sent? Yes, paper copies of the establishment license are sent after the license has been approved. And that establishment license needs to be posted in the reception area in a conspicuous location. The entire document needs to be on display. It should not be folded in any manner, and it should be able to be seen by anyone. How does the board inspect establishments performing NanoPen services? If you're providing a NanoPen service with the needles, you would get cited for practice of medicine. I'm not sure exactly what that question is asking. We talked about microchanneling and microneedling already. Who can I talk to regarding my future PSP application? You can email the board at barbercosmo@dca.ca.gov. If a newly licensed person also has a permit to perform body sculpting, body piercing, and tattoos, would it be best to have separate rooms and have one only for esthetician services apart from the other services? Yes, that would be our recommendation. That way there's no confusion as to what tools are being used for your tattoos, what tools are using for your body piercing, and body sculpting may still be an issue. We'll have to see what we find when the inspector goes out there. If independent contractors in a salon, why are both the independent contractor and the establishment owner cited and charged a penalty? That's the way that our law is written. The establishment owner is responsible for everyone in the shop, whether they are a contractor or a employee. Why are reinstatement hearings public yet decisions are not? Reinstatement hearings are public and the decisions are public as well, but it takes a few months for the decision to be posted online, but they are public information. To continue with longer hairstyles for men, can a hair salon be multi-gender, which might include cutting beards? Yes. A hair salon can be multi-gender. There's no rule or regulations that says that only men can get their services in a barbershop and only women can get services in a beauty salon. Any gender can go to any type of our establishments. So how do you charge your clippers? I'm not sure what that question is about. It's probably about dirty clippers. Clean your clipper before you charge them. I've emailed and called the board. No one has an answer, and I have yet to receive a follow-up response to my email, which I sent a few months ago. Please help. Without the specifics of your email, I cannot help you. So I apologize if you haven't been responded to, but you'll have to email again. And our emails are taking a week and a half to respond to. So please be patient. What if I work in 2 locations? How do I display my license at both? Do I need to request a second copy? You need to take your license from one location to the other. So can clippers be on the station on top in their charging docks? Yes, they can, as long as they're clean and the area is clean.
Carrie, I can jump in.
Okay.
All right, our next question is, during COVID, I really got that the state board was a great resource and support for consumers. Are you sole support system? If not, who would we go to if we had questions or need help in some way? So our board's focus is consumer protection. We hope to partner with our industry to make that happen, but our main goal is consumer protection, so consumers can contact us, but we do want to try to answer any licensee questions as well. So that is why we utilize our email and try to get through those. And we'll be hosting more events like this so that we can answer your questions. Can you please share where we can get more information to prepare for an inspection? Definitely go to our website. We highly recommend the self-inspection sheet. That is what's going to help you the most with an inspection. What license certification should be displayed in your spa or salon or booth? We've answered that a couple times, so hopefully you got that answer. We are trying to get through some of these questions. We're almost done, and we might have to actually pull the plug because we have so many. We are so happy, but we didn't think there'd be this many. Is there a limit between a barber and a Cosmo license? Is there a limit? I'm not sure what that means. The barber, they're both 1,000 hours. Barbers can shave, cosmetologists can do aesthetics and nails. So you would need to be licensed as both. What are the rules for a braiding salon? If you are only braiding, you do not fall under our board, but keep in mind if you deviate from any aspect of that braiding, like you go to shampooing, to styling, then you would need to have an establishment license. If someone could please answer a question, that would be greatly appreciated. We are trying very hard to do that. Microblading and aesthetics, what are the rules and regulations? Microblading is not within our scope of practice. That is with your health esthetician. And if you want all the rules and regulations of aesthetics, we really recommend that people read our health and safety regulations. That is everything that you could be cited for. If the clippers do not have a dock, and this is and there's just a cord, and the clipper needs to rest on the counter, excuse me, to charge, can it be straight on the station, or does it need to have barriers? It can be on the station. Just know that your station has to be clean. Your clean clippers have to be stored in a clean place. Are barber mats allowed on stations? We do not have any regulation over barber mats. You can use them. I just highly recommend you keep them very clean. What are the common violations for estheticians? Actually, right now, the most common violation for estheticians is people doing microneedling and body sculpting, which are both not allowed at this time. Is tinting of eyebrows by a hairstylist allowed? It is, with the correct product. It has to say silver nitrate. With a nursing degree, are you able to run a spa and perform microneedling without the supervision of a nurse practitioner or physician? I believe that answer is no, but I would highly recommend you talk to the nursing board and the medical board. Do hairdressing client capes need to be washed after each client? We mentioned this, that if they're touching the skin, yes. If you're using a neck strip, excuse me, or a towel, then no. Is it okay to have a cabinet in the restroom for storage with cleaning? You cannot have cleaning supplies in your bathroom. You can have toiletries, and that is it. Do nitrile gloves need to be in a closed labeled container, or can they be stored in a box they came in? I believe they can be stored in the box they came in. I share a station with another stylist. Oh, I think we answered that one already. Are you looking for new board members? If so, how can I play? So yes, we are. We do have the law changed to require that every one of our license categories be represented on our board, and we do have a barber opening, we have a cosmetologist opening, and we have a manicurist opening. Sorry, and those are all through the governor's office. So you would go to the governor's website and apply through the governor's office. I'm renting a room in a spa if I am not there at the time of the inspection, but the renter esthetician is there in case a fine that goes for her, not for me, or only for her. If we can determine that the fine is caused by the person that is there, you will not likely get that violation. But it just depends on the situation. Owners are responsible at all times for the health and safety of their business. Do braiders need to have a license? No. Thank you so much for this opportunity to interact. I've had my license for 20 years and the rules have never felt this accessible. Thank you so much for that comment.
I can take over, Christy.
Okay, thanks.
Can a non-licensed person get certified to do lash extensions? We already talked about this. They can be certified, but that does not allow them to legally perform those services in the state of California. To legally provide lash extension services, you need to be a licensed esthetician or a licensed cosmetologist. If the manicurists have soiled tools and drill bits in a soiled can that placed in their service cart, would it be okay? Yes, that just needs to be labeled. Whatever container you're keeping your tools in has to be labeled clean or soiled. Okay. Is the only requirement to open your own establishment is to have an establishment license? How long does it take to obtain? Is an inspection needed prior to getting an establishment license? Yes, you have to have an establishment license with the board in order to open your establishment. Please check with your local city or county for any other licenses you may need. It takes about 4 weeks to get an establishment license, and an inspection is not required prior to getting an establishment license. What cleaning supplies are okay in treatment rooms or cleaning supplies that shouldn't be in a room? Can we go over that? What cleaning supplies are okay in a treatment room? We don't have any rules and regulations regarding cleaning supplies in treatment rooms. Overall, you want to keep things where the public cannot, like children, get into them. But we don't. Is it okay to have a storage cabinet in the restroom for styling and cleaning supplies? You should not have cleaning supplies in the restroom for that same reason. You don't want children to be able to get into your cleaning supplies. Can items that are actively using be on top of the station as you go back and forth between clippers, guards, and combs? If you're working on a client, yes, but once you're done with that client, everything needs to go in the proper container, the proper labeled containers. Are assistants required to have a license too? Everybody that is working on a customer has to have a license. I have a beauty supply in California. I'm also a licensed cosmetologist. Can I open a salon inside of a beauty supply store? Yes, you can, but you need to apply for an establishment license, and you should check with your city or county to make sure that's okay. My daughter braids and does locks. Could she do those services inside the salon if I'm allowed to open in the store? Yes, she can do braiding. As long as your city or county doesn't have any issues with that. How often do inspectors come to visit a salon? The inspectors are not on any set schedule to visit salons. Some salons haven't been visited in a few years, and other salons may have been visited a few times within the last year. If we find a violation that warrants a follow-up inspection, such as unlicensed activity, dirty foot spas, then the inspector is going to come out and make sure that those violations have been corrected. Are board brushes state approved? Some stylists use some sort of a Scoutmaster knuckle brush. The board doesn't have any regulations regarding what types of brushes can or cannot be used. What are the guidelines on shampoo bowls and hair in the drain? The guidelines for shampoo bowls and hair in the drain is the shampoo bowl should always be cleaned and there should be no hair in the drain. I have a business and don't have an establishment. I'm going to get penalties for not having one. I have a business and don't have an establishment. And I'm going to get penalties for not having one. So, if you are providing services outside of a licensed establishment, you need to have a personal service permit. And if you don't have a board issued license for the services you're providing, and you don't have a personal service permit, and we find you working, you can be cited for unlicensed activity. If the owner is not in the establishment when being inspected, will she be called in? No. The establishment should be ready for an inspection at all times. That's why we require to have a licensee in charge that can help the inspector or walk with the inspector or sign the inspection report when the owner is not present.
Carrie, I'll go ahead and jump in.
Okay.
Okay, so we are nearing the noon mark for this event. We are so happy that you all joined us, but we are going to have to call it. We are going to continue to look at your questions, and we feel like this may have been successful. We know we have not gotten to all of your questions. I'm going to just recap a couple of things that we are seeing in some of the most common questions. Shampoo bowls, please keep in mind that they need to be kept clean and in good repair. Make sure you get that hair out of that shampoo bowl and keep those clean. Appointment only salons, yes, we will inspect those. The inspector will attempt 3 times, and then we will try to make an appointment with you. Keep it in mind, we understand that a lot of salons are appointment only, but we do have to do those inspections. So we hope that you do cooperate with our inspectors when they reach out to you to conduct those inspections. Estheticians can provide lash lifts and brow lamination. Yes, you can do that. Establishment applications should be mailed to the P.O. box that is on the letterhead or on the application. You can also apply online. You can renew your license even if you are not working. I highly recommend it. Don't let that license go. You all went to school for it. Keep it forever. And let's just say we do have a frequently asked questions location on our website that will also answer a lot of these questions that we are getting. So that is available to you. However, we're going to see if we can capture these questions that we weren't able to answer, and we will try to put them in our next town hall. This is definitely something that we plan to continue to do with you all, especially since we had so many of you and so many questions, and we appreciate that so much. We are so sorry that we did not get to everyone's questions. We will go through them and we will answer them during our next meeting. Feel free to email us any questions that you have. But with that, we are going to end this session today. We thank you again for participating with us, and we will see you next time.